and see if it's actually live.
See if it's working, huh?
Yeah, exactly.
All
Let's
right.
see here. We can go on to LinkedIn, and does it show that I'm live?
Let's see if
I don't know if it does. Yeah, showing him doing a live video. Awesome. Okay. And it doesn't look like it connected to what it was supposed to. So that's super annoying. So we're going to go ahead and edit this event and do it this way. Yeah, I really hate that LinkedIn actually doesn't connect you to like they don't have their own internal streaming service, so you have to do something third party.
Oh man.
Yeah. So they don't. It's that's why I'm using this system, because they literally don't have anything internal for it, which is hilarious.
Oh.
Let me see here. It won't even let me. Oh, settings potentially. Well, at least we can get the bugs out earlier. That's why I sent you that.
Oh. What happened here? Did I lose you, Gabe?
For a second too.
Oh, here we go.
Yeah, but we'll get started here in a second, everybody. I'm trying to see if it actually shows on LinkedIn that we're connected. And then I'll post the link in the chat for everybody to see.
Oh, perfect.
It shows that we're still live, so that's good. And then I'll just post this in the actual, what is this called? It's Eventbrite, Luma link, so that everybody there can grab it. So while we're sitting here, how's your week been going so far, man? Yeah, haven't caught up with you in a little while.
Yeah, it's been a little while. So I'm loving the Hawaii shirt.
Thanks.
Feeling a little festive. So
Yeah.
Love it. Yeah, week's been good. Had a busy day yesterday, but it feels like I'm in the middle of the week. Just got back from a little vacation, so that was kind of nice.
Nice.
So I hear that it's a little hot, a little warm down in Austin.
Austin, yeah, it's actually gotten better over the last day or two, but it's been over in the hundreds and humidity for a while actually. So it's actually nice to, what is it called? Get link to join.
A little bit of a relief there.
Yeah, a little bit of a relief. Yeah. And I'm posting in these links really quick into the chat just so we can get everybody notified that the thing is switched, and then editing the location on here as well.
All right.
And then hopefully we get some people popping in here.
How did I get lucky enough to be like the inaugural Founding Titans podcast here? What an honor.
Yeah. No, actually, so I was looking at a lot of the Forecastr podcasts that you guys had done, and you guys and Daryl Frater over at Sirac Ventures ended up convincing me that I need to make sure that I start my own, because he does some office hours with VCs every Friday with founders pitch and a lot of that stuff. And so finally pulled the trigger on it. I talked to him about it a while ago, and I think I talked to you about it a while ago. So reached out to both of you guys first, and his schedule was full. And I was like, I actually know a lot of, service providers and VCs and all that stuff. So let me go ahead and, get started with doing our own thing for Founding Titans.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
A way to go, Gabe.
Yeah, thanks. So I am, and sorry that it's going to take just a second to get all of this up and running. Because
no worries.
It's, I knew it was going to happen, which is why I sent you that link 5 minutes earlier. And I was like,
I totally should have got on even earlier. Yeah.
Yeah, I sent you the email because I was like, I wonder if he's going to jump on sooner. But it's all good because when I tested it earlier, everything worked. So it happens, but you roll with the punches. But yeah, let's go ahead and get started just while we're here. So let me go ahead and yeah, let's start off with a little bit of your background and a little bit about what Forecastr is all about.
Yeah, well, a little of my background. I have been a founder. I was early on coming out of grad school. I got involved with a tech startup, was like employee number 15. And that was my intro to startups. And I just loved it. That was like, this is so cool. Loved the energy. We raised a few rounds of funding from some big venture capital firms back in New York and others. But from there, I ended up later starting my own company and ran that for about 10 years. And then we sold it to a private equity group, and it was more in the direct to consumer space, but had a long 3 years after we sold it where it wasn't very fun, and ended up taking a little break after that and wanted to get back in the tech startup space. Ended up meeting a few folks from a little company called eShares that later branded to Carta. And so it was kind of fun being part of another startup in the tech scene. And the cool thing about Carta was it put me right in the middle of the startup ecosystem where, I was getting to know a lot of the VCs, tons of founders. And at the time I was doing some angel investing as well. So it was almost built-in deal flow. Just being around all this, it was really a fun time. So, yeah. From there, I mean, that's actually how I came across Forecastr. While I was at Carta for almost 5 years. One of the companies I got to know while I was there was Forecastr, and for what Carta was doing with the cap table and making it so founders could actually manage their equity and kind of project that out. The other issue I saw that founders would really run into was with their financial model. And I looked at Forecastr, I'm like, okay, this is the Carta of financial modeling right here. You're taking it out of the spreadsheets into a software platform, making it so much easier for the founder, for the investors, for everybody. And so I joined Forecastr about 2.5 years ago.
Yeah, no, that's awesome, and definitely love the background there. And actually, I didn't know that you worked at Carta for a little bit. That's some new information. I've actually spoken to a couple of some of the heads for the departments for Carta over the last couple of weeks for Founding Titans, and so always good to hear their names come up. We actually use them as well, and yeah, no, I absolutely love that company for sure. And so. Yeah, let's dive into everything. So, can you explain, what is a financial model and why is it critical for startups, particularly in the earlier stages of their businesses?
Yeah, like I said, this is an area where a lot of founders really struggle because most founders are builders, visionaries. It's like, I'm going to build the company. They're great leaders a lot of times. They don't necessarily have a finance background. Now, the interesting thing is if you're going down the venture capital path, the people that you're going to be raising from, they do have a financial background. So almost all investors have, a financial background of some kind, and they speak this weird language. It's not only the language of finance, but it's the language of startup finance. And so as a founder, you have to get fluent in startup finance. And that becomes really challenging, especially for first-time founders, first time going through it, starting to figure out, what is, when they're talking about ARR or these different metrics, what are they talking about? You have to know, these terms and the metrics that you're going to be measured against from the investor's perspective. So the way that you do that is you build a financial model. So even at the earliest stages, if you can kind of map out what this company looks like in a financial sense, it's going to help you to understand what investors are looking for. And ultimately that is, how do you make money? How are you going to, get customers? How much are those customers worth? How long are they going to stick around? It forces you to start to make some of these assumptions. And
Yeah.
so that's what your financial model is. It's basically a bunch of assumptions going into a financial projection that helps you understand your business more than anything.
Yeah, no, that's a perfect summary of everything, and you will dive deeper into some of those different aspects for that because I mean, I know you have models that you guys have online as well as actually going through the system because I know we've actually used one of you guys' templates. We continue to use that for our
Nice.
financial modeling for Founding Titans actually.
Love
Uh,
it.
and yeah, I've been working with startups for over 10 years, and it's still extremely difficult all the time to actually, learn all these different acronyms and, and go through and talk to everybody about like, ARR, MRR, the different revenue models that everybody has as well. And I know Forecastr does a really great job of, adding in those different, revenue streams that you might have potentially. Because, we have about 4 that we're going to be implementing over the next, year or two.
Yeah.
And so that kind of goes a little bit into, what are the main important aspects that you would say for pre-seed to Series A companies, like in the different stages that they're going through? So for pre-seed to seed and seed to Series A funding rounds, like how does that financial model play into, those different stages of a startup?
Great question. So, it used to be that you could kind of get through your seed round with probably just something you kind of put in place. Kind of, you have a good idea of how your business works, put in a simple spreadsheet and you just kind of map out some projections. And I mean, during the, early part of the decade, I mean, it was when money was flowing, you probably didn't need a financial model in a lot of cases. You had a good idea and money was flowing. That has changed for sure. When you're in the pre-seed or ideation stage, I always think that it's a great idea to build out the financial model just from a perspective of the founder understanding how this business is going to work. And so, and you can do that without having to go pay somebody to create a crazy intense model. And that's where our templates came in. You mentioned that you're using some of the free financial modeling templates from Forecastr. That's perfect. If you're in this ideation stage, pull some of those templates down and start kind of mapping out, hey, how does our business work? Is it reoccurring revenue? What are our revenue streams? How are we going to get customers? What are our different, customer acquisition channels? And you can start to define some of that. And it helps you think through how this business is going to work. Now, at the ideation or pre-seed stage, you're going to pivot. And so, I mean, you don't want to hang your hat on a financial model like this is how everything's going to work. It's like you're going to be flexible with it. It's like you're going to try things out. But having something that you can measure against, like let's say you have an assumption that we think that our customer acquisition cost is going to be $75. Well, if you get into this 3 months and your customer acquisition cost is $150, you can start to look and say, oh, okay, what does that mean for our business? Is this a valid model? Do we need to pivot? Or what changes do we need to make? Or you might find that it's actually less than what you're projecting. You say, what does that mean? Maybe we have to raise less money, or maybe we can do more if we raise money. But again, you can start to map these things out in your mind. And, even at the pre-seed stage, when you move to the seed stage, and again, this used to be kind of the Series A, but I think at the seed stage, you're starting to get more scrutiny from investors saying, okay, we want to see traction. And so you've got real data typically that you can start to kind of pull into and make some assumptions based on that real data going forward. And I will say that most investors are going to look at this from the perspective of, I want to know how you're thinking as a founder. And so, having a financial model is going to be helpful to get into your mind as a founder as to how you envision this business. How do you see it operating? Where are your milestones? What are the key inflection points of this business, 2-3 years out? And where are you kind of thinking? Is this a $10 million business in 5 years? Or is this a $100 million business in 5 years? What's in your head? And this is an opportunity to show the investors that. And at Series A, it's table stakes. You've got to have a good financial model that you're measuring against and really using as a strategic decision-making tool.
Yeah. I mean, investors always just want to see your thought processes in the beginning stages of the business, but as it kind of progresses, you definitely need to have those things figured out, because otherwise, if you're not generating revenue, especially in this traction-based market, you're going to fail. And nobody wants to, throw their own hard-earned money at a business that, isn't going to give them at least a 10x return. And I mean, those returns kind of change as the business progresses, from that early stage to, later stage businesses, Series B and later. But at the end of the day, it still has to, 3x at least, I would say, no matter what stage you're in. And 3x is mainly in the later stage, definitely 10x for, pre-seed or, seed stage companies. Yeah, no, that's perfect. I absolutely love that answer. And so what are some common mistakes or challenges that you see startups make when they're building their financial models?
Yeah, a couple of key ones I've seen. I think it's one of two directions that a lot of founders go down. One is they will pull a template, even if it's a Forecastr template. I mean, hopefully, we've got it tied in, so you've actually got a cash flow statement and your balance sheet and everything else tied together. So that's nice. But a lot of times, a founder will just pull something off the internet and use this model that may not fit their business. And so that's kind of one mistake you do see. And then they won't really understand it. And they'll spend a ton of time trying to make this model work, doing it, themselves and trying to figure it out as they go, which isn't a bad exercise, I will say, because I mean, it's super helpful, but there are better ways to do it that you can get the benefit out of. The other thing that you see, the other mistake I've seen made is founders will go to a fractional CFO or somebody to build their model, and they'll pay them 5-10 grand, and this CFO will create an incredible model. It's got 40 tabs in it in this spreadsheet, and then they hand it back, and the founder has no idea how to use it. It's like, okay, now we've got a financial model. We'll send this to the investors, but it's not something that they know how to operate or use. In fact, a lot of times the only person that actually knows how to operate it is the guy that built it, right? And so then if you have questions, you have to keep going back. It's like, oh, how do I do this? Oh, I just broke this cell and it looks like it ruined the entire model. What do I do? So now you've got a scenario where the founder doesn't know how to use the model, and it really doesn't, benefit you a whole lot. So, those are two mistakes I have seen made. The other thing I've seen happen quite frequently is a founder will just do a P&L. So they just say, okay, let's figure out, this is when cash comes in, this is when it goes out, or they'll just do the profit loss statement, and it'll either be cash basis or maybe it is accrual, and they've got to figure out, when do we recognize the revenue in there and all of that stuff. And they will ignore the cash flow piece. When do companies actually pay you, especially if you're like inventory run, and it's like, when does cash go out? When does it come in? If you don't have a cash flow statement tied to your financial projection, it can be a real problem, because ultimately cash is king. As a founder, your number one responsibility is to not run out of cash, because that's the end of your business. So you have to know, what your cash is. And again, that's a mistake I see a lot of early stage founders particularly make. And then finally, I mean, just not asking for help, being able to, use the resources or tools that are available to you, and learning as you go, but having somebody that's done it before help you out, because you'll get a lot further and it will help you learn a lot faster.
Yeah, no, I definitely agree there, especially with the portion of, asking for help. I know that's something that a lot of founders struggle with. I mean, hell, I've even struggled with it myself at times. It's really about, getting out of your own way, and really, it's not about you, it's about the business. At the core heart of everything that you're doing, it can be very tough, right? I mean, even when we were building our financial model ourselves, I was actually struggling with using it, because like I know how to read a P&L and I know how to, generate a balance sheet and everything else, but actually, generating that stuff myself, was a little bit more challenging than I thought it was. And so being able to actually jump in and, have, actually the COO of the last startup I was with helped me with, generating some of those things.
Yeah.
Excel wizard. I'm great with Excel, but even then, adding in the multiple revenue streams and some of that stuff, which I know Forecastr definitely could have helped out with, like for actually making that easier and even upkeeping with that stuff. I think a lot of founders kind of forget about as well, because it's not just like a one and done. You create your stuff, like you're constantly going in there monthly, adjusting numbers, potentially adding in different, counts for, users, revenue, whatever it is for your business. And that's something that, I'm waiting on being able to, get Forecastr after this round for sure.
I love it.
We're able to, cause I definitely understand the value there. And I'm sure a lot of other founders do as well. And so how does Forecastr, help founders with navigating these challenges? And how does the platform compare to some of the other financial modeling tools that are out there?
Oh, sure. So first off, the nice thing is, when you have a software platform, it's taking it out of spreadsheets. You have guardrails in where, if you've got a spreadsheet that you got from your fractional CFO and you mess up a cell somewhere, you might not know where you messed up, but now the entire model could be broken, right? And it's like, oh man, now what do I do to fix it? So having software put some guardrails in place for that. It's very founder friendly, makes it easy to create your financial model, kind of walks you through the steps. But the other advantage is every customer is assigned an experienced financial analyst. And so the financial analyst actually walks through the whole process of building or bringing your financial model into the software, walking you through how to do everything, but then also teaching you kind of here's how to speak the language of finance. Here are the metrics that matter to this business, walking you through this. This is somebody that builds models like every single day of their life. That's what they love doing. And they can quickly hone in on, here are the metrics that matter for your business. Here's what you want to talk to investors about. Here are the key things, the key drivers. They'll walk you through that whole process. So you've kind of got a fractional finance person kind of built into your team all of a sudden. And then Forecastr can kind of scale with you as you go. And we can become that fractional CFO, down the road if that's something you need. The key difference is that leveraging the software, it makes it so we're spending way less time on building models, managing reports, generating reports. A lot of that gets automated. And so the bill goes way down for startups. So it's very startup founder friendly. And then the other aspect of that is having somebody there to kind of walk you through questions as they come up becomes really helpful. One of the things that was really interesting, I always love talking to our new analysts as they come in to Forecastr and they first get introduced to the software. And I remember talking to one of them recently, and I'm like, so what was so appealing about Forecastr? And he said, I got in and I started playing around with it. He said, this guy had probably built thousands of financial models over his career. And he's like, I took a model that would take me 3 weeks to build, and I did it in like 2 hours.
Yeah.
And he's like, it is game changing. And so that's the type of advantage you have kind of using software. Again, you're just so much more efficient. You can focus on other things rather than, trying to pull everything into a spreadsheet.
Yeah. And I mean, there's also different levels to you guys' plans too. I mean, the ability you talked about report generation, the ability for, a founder going into a board meeting and being able to present their information with a preset deck, essentially, that's already provided to them. So they're not to waste, a huge amount of time. Because I actually know a lot of founders that I've spoken with and actually helped them with generating some of those presentations. and it can take up to a week sometimes. And that's if you already have a pro forma set up. If you've already got, all of your ducks in a row, it can take that long sometimes. And so, especially for like Series A stage companies or like people gearing up to go into Series A while they were fundraising, I've helped out with some of those reports, and it can be brutal. So the ability to get that streamlined either monthly or quarterly, just right into your inbox is fantastic. Trust me, like it's a godsend sometimes.
Totally get that. And I will say some of our biggest fans are the investors, because especially if we can start to automate like monthly variance analysis reports where founders can go in and say, okay, here's what we projected we were going to do next month or last month. And the software, it hooks right into your accounting system. So your QuickBooks or Xero, whatever you're using. And so it will pull that data in, and now you can do your variance analysis, and it will run these reports that we can now send to investors. When investors are typically like lucky to get financials from founders quarterly, right? And a lot of times that's built into the term sheet or into the funding docs. And a lot of times that doesn't get hit, and it puts founders potentially at risk if they're not providing something that's required. But if you can start to automate that, and your investors are getting a monthly report like clockwork from you, they start to go, why aren't all of our companies doing this? Why are you guys the only ones? But it starts to build that trust and that relationship with your investors, even post-investment.
Yeah, no, that's perfect. And that actually kind of segues into my next question of, how do financial models factor into the current traction-based market? And also, how can a poor financial model impact fundraising?
Yeah, I think it's a different atmosphere where investors are wanting to see traction. And you can't blame them. I'm there. I will rarely invest in a company that doesn't have traction. Yeah. Now, traction can be defined differently. Whether it's customers, but if you can start to see that traction over time and measure against what you're projecting, that's where you're going to start to gain, the confidence of potential investors. Yeah. So if you can walk through a financial model with them and say, here's kind of our projections, and then you can send them a monthly update, saying, hey, here's what we were kind of projecting. Here's where we're at. We were off by this much, or we exceeded it. Now you're giving that report and accountability through your monthly investor updates, and you're starting to build that trust. And honestly, in this environment, you really have to start that, 6 to 12 months out before you're going to actually get a check. Build that investor list, right? That potential investor list. Get these investors on your invite, so you can kind of keep them on track, and then let them know in advance of, hey, this is when we're going to be raising. We'd love to get on your calendar. You can kind of run the whole funding process through that, but your financial model kind of ties into that, because you can start to now say things like, okay, this is when we need to raise, this is how much, and this is how it's going to be used. And again, that's what the investors want to see is that you are a great steward of the money that that you're asking for from them. So if you can show how it's going to be used, and you can build off of the traction that you already have, and that flows into, hey, we know our customer acquisition cost. We know that if we spend this much on a new SDR, or if we spend it on, on paid ads or whatever it is, we've got some traction now to show what those assumptions are. We'll continue to measure against them, and they'll get better and better over time. But we have something that shows what that traction means and can justify why we need this amount of money, how it's going to be used, and where it's going to get us. Oh, I think you're on mute.
Haha, yeah.
Oh, there we
go. Sorry, my emails kept chiming off. I kept getting a bunch of stuff there. You've explained that extremely well. You actually kind of answered a little bit of the question that I was going to ask, specifically for, seed and Series A rounds, what the investors might specifically look for there. I don't know if you have any additional insights just on, the specific categories for those two, or if there's any additional nuance that, might be different for a seed versus a Series A company.
In your seed round, I mean, you might not have enough time to see what the real lifetime value of a customer is. You might be kind of early and you're kind of trying to, guesstimate that. That's super important. I mean, you want to know, what is the LTV? What are we seeing? What are we kind of projecting? And you've got something to measure against. At Series A, you've probably got a pretty good feel for what's our lifetime value. What does our churn rate look like? Those are metrics that you can kind of start incorporating into your financial model and starting to measure against. And you'll get a good feel for it. If you're really good about, taking your financial model and saying, okay, at the end of every month, we'll just carve out an hour and we will go through, how did we do compared to what we projected? You're going to be such a better operator, and that should flow into your investor reports. So if you can get in this cadence of, sending out a monthly investor report, your financial model should drive a lot of what goes in there in terms of, hey, here's how we did against our projections. Here's how we're tracking our LTV. We're seeing that tracking this way, or our customer acquisition cost. You can start to pull some of those metrics into those investor updates. And that's going to make a huge difference in building that trust over time with your current and, potential investors. But your metrics are definitely going to change, in terms of being more accurate over time. And that's probably the biggest difference between like a seed, pre-seed, seed, Series A. You just get better and better data as you go. But the key is you have to be tracking it all the way along, and having something to measure against, if that makes sense.
Yeah, I mean, that makes perfect sense in regards to everything. And so let's jump into some real life stories, right? Especially success stories. I've always loved to hear those. So can you share any success stories or examples where Forecastr significantly impacted a startup's financial planning and growth?
Yeah, one that I loved hearing this from one of our analysts. He was working with a company, and this founder had been around. I mean, he'd run this business for like 10 years. Wow. And so it was a cash flowing business, and it was doing great. And then a lot of times those types of companies, it's like, hey, we're making money. How bad do we need a financial model? Money's coming in and we're fine, right? So it's not like a super urgent thing. Like, if you're raising capital and the investor asks you for a financial model, you need a financial model. So this guy, he ends up, using Forecastr, and the analyst walks him through, builds out the model. First time it ever really built out a financial model. He gets in there and he gets into, a couple of calls with the analyst, and the analyst said he finally just broke down and started crying. And the analyst was like, whoa, what's going on? And he goes, this is the first time I have ever understood how my business works and how we actually make money. This is 10 years and this is a profitable business, right?
I mean, that's a bold statement for 10 years. Yeah.
Is that crazy?
Yeah.
And so the cool thing that he got out of it was he could start to now see that, hey, some of these decisions that I was making were probably not the right decisions. I was still making money, but if I want to maximize this is where I should be spending all my time, right here. I can see this in my financial model. It's like, I should ignore this part of the business because it's not making me money. And just having that clarity was a huge win for this particular founder. So yeah, that's one that I thought was really cool.
No, that's an amazing story. I kind of like felt this weight on my shoulders as you were saying that, because I've dealt with so many CEOs on the business consultancy side of my career where like I wish that I had a tool like this, because it's become a point of contention multiple times where people say, oh yeah, we're making, money hand over fist. And I'm like, yeah, but like, look at our margins, look at all these other things. Like, we could be making more. And they're like, nah, that's impossible. Like, we're making millions of dollars. And I'm like, I don't know about that, but we could, like, there's always room for improvement. And I love this, like, people that are actually able to see that even when you show them that data too. Because like, in my opinion, data is always king. Being able to, plan out your business, months, years into the future, as well as also seeing your current track record and like what you've done, and like really just taking all of that in is fantastic. No, I always love that. And so for tailoring, the models to different industries, I can always see how, that works with you guys, but for everybody else in the audience here, does Forecastr cater to specific industries, or is it adaptable to any type of, startup business, and how do you ensure that these models fit diverse business needs?
Okay, so this was something I was really interested in when I joined Forecastr. I was like, hey, is this just for SaaS companies, and focused on recurring revenue models and things like that? And the cool thing is Steven and Logan, the founders of Forecastr, they both are fractional CFOs. That's their background is as a CFO for startup companies. And so they got it. The thing that they wanted to build was to address the challenge of, being being simple enough for anyone to be able to use the software and be able to come in and build a financial model. Yeah. And there's a really fine line between having simplicity and flexibility. And there's a lot of platforms out there that don't get that. Like they'll either go way too complex, where it's like you get in, it's like, I need 3 years of education to actually work this system. So it's got to be simple, but it has to have the flexibility of being able to cater to all these different circumstances. And so that's what has been phenomenal about Forecastr, is seeing how they've been able to blend that together and make it simple on the interface side, but being able to handle all sorts of business models or situations that come in. And so at this point, we've seen thousands of companies from different industries, different business models that have really influenced how Forecastr has been built. And so at this point, I don't think there's a model that we haven't seen. Everybody always hits me up. He's like, yeah, but my model is like really different and complex and unique. And we'll put it into Forecastr. And a lot of it has to do with, having an analyst to walk people through it, because what they'll start to understand is that it's really not that unique. Maybe you have different, multiple different revenue streams that kind of tie into different things, but it's not that unique from lots of other businesses that kind of have a similar type of a model. So yes, short answer is we can accommodate pretty much any business model, or, we've worked with life science companies that aren't going to make revenue for years and years and years, where they're managing their costs against the amount they're raising, so that their revenue becomes what they're raising it in tranches. Everything from that to your typical SaaS companies to, product companies, marketplaces, all types of companies. And we have a whole bunch of different pieces that we can kind of pull in to, to accommodate those different types of things. So.
Yeah, no, I love that. And so, my next question would be, on the future of financial modeling, right? So how do you see financial modeling evolving over the next few years, and what role will platforms like Forecastr actually play in that evolution?
Yeah, this is a fun question, because if you look at where things are going, you've got AI coming in and being able to take data and put it together and help with the projections. I think one of the pieces that we're seeing continues to be a challenge, even as we're incorporating AI in different pieces and stuff, is that human element of having somebody go in and say, okay, does this make sense? Let's look at the assumptions. AI can do a good job of pulling a lot of stuff together, but having somebody to go in that's got that financial eye and financial mindset to go in and say, okay, let's do a gut check here. And I think that's where Forecastr has really kind of leaned into that analyst, the human approach side of things combined with software. And I think we're going to continue to see that need, especially as AI gets involved and you're doing more and more with data, having a professional or somebody to come in and say, okay, one, let's interpret the data and let's make sure that the founder knows how to speak to it. And so it's not just here's an AI model, give it to the investors, let them figure it out. It's like, no, I've got to understand this as a founder. And so to have somebody there to help along that side, I think is something we'll continue to need, even as AI continues to get better and better.
No, I 100% agree. And I mean, we're building in the AI side for, founding titans. And it's always funny how everybody assumes that, AI is just going to be like this immediate solution. I mean, actually, I played with, the models myself for like GPT, Gemini, all that stuff.
Yeah.
We were building our financial model. And like the best that I could come up with was, a system for actually answering questions for investors to kind of like type in and all that stuff, which is great. But also the accuracy of it, like going in depth, you can't get that CFO level quality from artificial intelligence right now. You might be able to come, maybe if you've got a really killer team building that stuff out, like 60, 70%, but that 30% is where you actually, 30 to 40% is where you actually need the assistance. And it's not just something that you could build on Excel and maintain there. So it can solve, a little bit of the speed in which things get done, but
sure.
it can't take you 100% of the way there. And that's, I mean, for a lot of AI businesses, it's always crazy when I hear everybody say that, I'll run out of a job or whatever else it is. And really it's just improving your current workflows. But, you can't take the human element even out of finance. I know it's all numbers and all that stuff, but at the end of the day, there is still a magical human element that a lot of people kind of dismiss sometimes.
Yeah, I totally agree. And then understanding the metrics and what they mean and what the investors are kind of looking for. And then just the data that goes into it, making sure the data is accurate, accurately conveyed from historical to future, all those types of things. I do think I'm super excited about the applications of AI. Like you said, being able to ask questions on, hey, what about this scenario? Take my model, run this scenario for me. What does this look like? Where's our cash position at the end of 18 months? Things like that. Those things are super cool and excited for the future in that regard, for sure.
100%. I definitely, plus one to that for sure. And so also everybody that's watching, definitely send some, questions in the chat if you have any additional ones. I know we've highlighted a lot of, really great things, and thank you again, Jeff, for your time. I have one final question here. And so if anybody's got any questions, definitely post those. But for your advice to founders, right? What advice would you give to people that are, just starting with their financial models, and any key resources or, first steps that you would recommend for actually, getting started with that process?
Okay, great question. One of the things I love about Forecastr is Stephen and Logan took the company through Techstars, and Techstars has this give first mentality built into it. And I've seen that culture permeate through the entire organization, which is awesome. And in that light, Forecastr has tried to really lead with education and, free resources, being very helpful, even for the earliest stage founders. So, like you did, Gabriel, we've got free financial modeling templates. Hit me up and I'm happy to send those over to you, and you can start there. We have a ton of webinars and trainings. In fact, if you go to our website, forecastr.co, you can go to past webinars that we've done where it will walk you through the basics of a financial model. So that education, I think, is something that I'd start out with. And then, as you get into it and you have questions, I would go to other founders and get advice and work with them in the earliest stages. And then don't be afraid to go get some advice or have a professional come in and help you at some point. That's really where it's going to be definitely worth it. It's kind of like a startup attorney. I mean, you can go so far in getting things set up, but having a professional to come in and look at it and go, all right, make sure you don't make these few key mistakes that I've seen made over and over and over again. Same thing. It's like have a professional that you can kind of go to kind of run things past, especially as you get into fundraising mode. That can really be a helpful and a make or break in a lot of cases in being able to really know your numbers and have somebody kind of help you through that if that's a challenge.
Yeah, no, that's fantastic. And I mean, like I said, we've used some of those resources. I've recommended, both Forecastr and some of those resources myself, out here in Austin, and even to a couple of other people as well. And I'm really excited for a lot of those companies to, kind of graduate into being able to actually utilize the services fully. When we were looking at partners for Founding Titans, we went through and, everything we absolutely love for how the system works, the resources that you guys provided. We're going to be showcasing a lot of those resources, on our platform when everything launches, but also just, knowing that it's not just about the, like the sale for you guys as well. The fact that you guys actually do, take the time to help, the founders and really walk through some of those processes is great. Like, I know when I was looking at everything, like I didn't get, a hard sell or anything, which was nice. It was just like, hey, we know where you're at. Here's what you can do for now. And then when you're ready, this is what everything looks like. And just went through the demos and like, yeah, super hyped up for that. Love it. And yeah, I made sure that I posted the link for, definitely getting a demo with you guys inside of the LinkedIn. I'll go ahead and post it again here for everybody. And then I don't see any additional questions here. Is there anything, I guess, that you want to say, Jeff, or, anything else that you want to kind of highlight on that we might not have touched?
No, I think this was awesome. Gabe, you did a great job. Kudos for the first podcast, the inaugural Founding Titans podcast. You're a great host and excited to see the platform as it continues to evolve, and excited to be part of it as well. So really appreciate that.
Yeah, no, I'm definitely excited for all those different things as well. We're going to be launching fairly soon here. We're just raising our round. We've actually got so much interest that it's going to be way more expensive for us to maintain the system ourselves. We've got over, 7,000 plus people combined for our wait list and everything.
Amazing.
18 partnerships, including you guys, and continuing to grow that. And it's probably going to be at about 20 by the end of this week, if not early next week, and just continuing to keep pushing forward with the company. But yeah, we're rocking and rolling. Just if anybody knows any investors, tell them I said hi. Not just for our round, but also we're also focusing on that in terms of customer acquisition on our end. Just making sure that there are a lot of investors in that environment, because a lot of founders do look for those individuals. But also service providers and especially communities. We've got some angel groups that are already interested that we're speaking with. We've got, Fiesta out here in Austin that's already signed up. We've got International Accelerator that's already, rocking and rolling with us as well. And so, we'll continue to build that out. So anybody in the ecosystem, we definitely want to make sure that, they're jumping onto our system and really getting the questions, thoughts, and experiences addressed for all the different founders that are out there, especially those that are in the early stages for, pre-seed to Series A.
I love it. No, it's super exciting. Super exciting.
Yeah. Well, thank you again for your time, Jeff. We'll definitely have to schedule some time to talk offline again. I'd love to catch up in a private setting and also tell you about some of the other progress that we've made too. And I know I'll be talking to some of the team later on this week for some other stuff. So, no, it's really great to have you on, man. Really appreciate your support and, everything that, Forecastr is, done for us, especially, and really can't wait to, continue to see how everything progresses with the partnership that we have with you guys.
Love it. Gabe, thanks so much. Yeah, definitely. We'll be talking here soon. So offline.
Yeah, for sure. And so for everybody else in the audience, we're going to be doing these weekly, every Tuesday, either at 12:30 or 1 o'clock. Next week, we have Jake O'Shea with Antler that's going to be jumping on. Then we've got a lot of other VCs and industry experts that are going to be coming on throughout. Basically, we have a calendar through October. Also, if anybody in the ecosystem is interested in potentially being able to come on, speak with me and kind of dive into a specific topic around the startup ecosystem, love to have you guys on. And so definitely reach out to me and send me a DM, email, whatever works. And yeah, thanks again, Jeff, and have a great day, everybody.